Hello and welcome to Senior Care's Living Wisely, Aging Well. We discuss topics of interest for people aged 60 and above and also adults living with disabilities. I'm Tracy Arabian, and today my guest is Renee Carr. Renee is the Director of Protective Services at Senior Care. Welcome, Renee. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Today we're going to discuss World Elder Abuse Month, Elder Abuse Awareness Month,
Yep.
Big difference, and Senior Care's Protective Services. So, Renee, exactly what does it mean, protective services, in the world of the senior care?
So Protective Services is it's a program that is regulated and mandated by the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And Protective Services, in the most concise way I can put it, is really charged with the responsibility of receiving and responding to reports of suspected elder mistreatment of abuse, neglect, or financial.
So, if somebody saw one of those situations, can just anybody report something like this?
Yeah, so anyone who may have learned either firsthand or secondhand of an elder maybe being abused or neglected or mistreated in some way can certainly report. There are a couple different ways to report concerns of elder abuse. You can go to mass.gov. The web holds all, so it's a really easy way to report. You can also call the Central Intake Unit, and that phone number is 800-922-2275. To make a verbal report with the information you have. And an intake worker will certainly guide you through that process and ask some specific questions to make sure that the necessary information is relayed.
Excellent. Yeah. And what were the types of elder abuse again?
So there are different types. There are reportable conditions. There are 6 different ones. We have sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial exploitation, caregiver neglect, or self-neglect. Those are the 6 specific types. Most often there is more than one type of abuse co-occurring. People may not be aware of that, but that is certainly something that protective services workers are trained to explore for, because there are relationships between different types of abuse. I will offer that in all honesty, by a good majority, the most commonly reported, the most substantiated type of abuse is self-neglect. And what that is really when there's no identified abuser or perpetrator of any type of abuse, but rather the elder themselves may not be meeting their essential needs adequately enough to remain safely in the community.
Okay. So, what might I see that might indicate that a person is experiencing these types of abuses? They're not going to come up to me and say, I'm being financially abused.
Yeah.
What might I see out in the community that might make me suspicious?
So lots of times there are signs and symptoms that at first glance seem rather benign and not super important or indicative of something going wrong. But if someone's baseline has changed, if their presentation physically or cognitively or even socially has changed, that sometimes can be an indicator that something's changed in their lives or something is going on. For example, someone's physical appearance could go from relatively well-groomed to somewhat unkempt. You may notice that their personal care, hygiene habits have gone by the wayside. Maybe they look like they've lost a little weight. Maybe their clothing seems bigger than usual and maybe a little bit of cinching at the waist, indicating that there might be some weight loss. Maybe they're not engaging in their typical activities like they once did. Maybe they frequented the senior center 2 or 3 times a week and now that's not happening. Maybe they typically go to lunch with, a group of friends monthly, and that's something that's really ingrained in kind of who they are. And you've noticed that they're now making excuses to not go. That could be indicative of a financial strain or a financial change. Sometimes if we learn family members or loved ones have moved in with an elder, that's certainly an indicator that something might be changing in someone's life, which then certainly could negatively impact an elder in some ways. We may see missed medical appointments. We may see medications not being taken as they once had. We may see, little dings and dents in the car that weren't there a short while ago, indicative that something might be changing with them physically or cognitively. So it would really be impossible to explore any and all potential signs and symptoms of some type of wrongdoing or decline in an elder, but certainly things that have typically been occurring or engaged by with the elder, if they've gone by the wayside or if there's been a noted change of any kind. I think it's certainly worth exploring and asking some questions to figure out maybe the why behind it.
Okay. Now, if I'm concerned about, let's say, my mother or, well, anybody in my life, but I don't want my family to think that I'm sticking my nose where it doesn't belong, is my name associated with this report?
So the identity of any and all reporters are confidential.
Okay.
When you call into that 800 number or you file on the web, there are different, criteria. Certainly, if you want to remain anonymous, you cannot file on the web with no identity. You certainly would have to disclose. But that identity and that information is not shared with any potential elder abuse victim and or family member or professional. That information is certainly held confidential. If people call into the 800 number, they absolutely do not have to disclose their identity. But either way, the identity of a reporter is not disclosed. There are some exceptions, of course, which I would be remiss if I didn't offer that. But if there is a court order that is served, or if we do have to refer to the district attorney to look into some criminal concern, because we are civil in nature, then certainly there are those outliers and those exceptions to confidential, holding the reporters in.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I get myself together and I file a report. Then what happens?
So what happens is whether you file verbally or electronically on the web, the information is gathered and in a systematic way presented to the agency who's going to oversee the Protective Services investigation. Our primary function is to be civil investigators to explore for the presence of abuse or neglect or financial exploitation. And what we do is we certainly engage the elder first and foremost. They are our client. They are our responsibility to make sure they're safe and see if we can assist them. We then gather other information, whether it be from family members or professionals or records of some sort. It could be police records, it could be medical records, it could be financial, depending on the specific nature of the concern. And we gather information from sources that would be most pertinent to the concerns being reported and explore for any indicators or support or evidence, for lack of a better word, that there is some type of abuse or neglect present or not. And we have 30 days to do that. The law gives us 30 days to collect that information and conduct an investigation. And really, we take every case on its own merit. And what we do in one case, we may not do in the next case because it may not be relevant. So there's no cookie cutter approach, but there certainly is a set of regulations and mandates that guide our investigation. And at the end of that 30 days, we come to a determination based on all the information that's been collected or observed or reviewed. And our threshold is more than 50%. We're not a court of law where we have to prove without a reasonable doubt. We certainly look at all the information. If the person next to you in the grocery store line, given all the same information, would come to probably the same conclusion, it's a good indicator that there's probably something going a little bit awry. And we would then switch gears a little bit. We go from an investigation mode to a service planning mode. We could open the case and start to work with that elder and other people as indicated to help alleviate and eliminate the effects of any type of abuse or neglect that has been a result of that interaction. If the case is not substantiated, meaning that we don't find enough information to suggest that there is any type of mistreatment occurring, the case simply closes and the record would be expunged in accordance with the Massachusetts general laws. I like to think that the work really begins. The investigation certainly is primary and important, but the work to really help the individual tends to happen on the tail end of that. And when you open the case and really start to talk about what you could offer as an agency or as a community to help that individual in their specific.
Excellent. So what do you do if the person who you've been investigating the situation, what if they just don't want the help?
Well, that certainly happens, and it's certainly their right. So one of the pillars of the Protective Services Program is the right to self-determination. And people have the right to retain decisional ability. They actually are presumed to retain decisional ability and make their own choices unless, deemed incompetent by a court of law or a medical professional offers that opinion, identifying a surrogate decision maker. People certainly have the right to pick and choose what they want to implement to change their course in life or not. And although Protective Services certainly wants to help people and elders improve their quality of life and remain safe and live the life they so choose, we cannot unilaterally impose any intervention on somebody. That's a civil right. It's self-determination, and people certainly can say thanks, but no thanks. Of course, we try to build that relationship with them and make sure the education is provided. So even if now isn't the right time for someone to make some change, maybe they're just fully educated and ready should something change down the line, and they become, they come to a place where they decide, okay, now's the time, or maybe I should consider getting some help in the house. And our, interventions and referrals can range anything from, legal intervention to a little bit of homemaking help in the home, or rides to get to your medical appointments, or a lifeline. So if you do have a fall or an injury, you can summons help quickly. It might be our home delivered meals to make sure, someone gets the nourishment that they need, and a check-in day to day. Depending on the situation would really indicate to us, or, be a predictor of what types of interventions we would offer.
So let's say Mrs. X says thank you, but no thank you. Mm-hmm. But her nephew says, no, you've got to do something. Yep. What happens then?
We run into that. Well, sometimes there's a difference of opinion, and that difference of opinion can be between the elder and family members, or just concerned parties, or even medical professionals. At the end of the day, the elder is the one who decides what's best for them. And so long as they can demonstrate to the Protective Services worker in the program that they can synthesize information and make an informed choice about why they're coming to the decision they are, they certainly have the right to assume risks in the community. The reality is all of us face risks of one type or another, and there's certainly a range. Even if someone is presenting at high risk, they have the right to assume that risk. It doesn't mean that the Protective Services worker would agree with that or want that for them, but it is not our job to impose our personal beliefs or thoughts on someone. It is simply to assess the situation, offer potential remedies or interventions to make someone safer and enhance the quality of life if possible. And then at the end of the day, we have to respect their decision. We don't have the authority to impose anything. Again, there are exceptions. Someone is found to lack capacity and risk is exceptionally high. We certainly have some options available to us through, court orders or legal interventions, but those are the vast minority of cases, because the way the law is written, someone is presumed to retain that ability.
Okay, well, changing gear a little bit, I understand that June is World Elder Abuse Awareness Month. And why do we need an Elder Abuse Awareness Month?
Well, June 15th, in fact, is World Elder Abuse Day. So there are different nations all around that hold different types of events to just simply raise awareness. The reality is a lot of people around us and communities and society at large do not recognize and realize that elders are being mistreated every single day, and that there is something to do about it. A lot of people seem to be aware that children, need our advocacy, and people with disabilities need advocacy, but elders are also a very vulnerable population. And the reported elder abuse is estimated to be underreported. In all likelihood, the estimates are probably there's about 4 times more elder abuse than what's being reported out there.
Oh my goodness.
And every year, I can tell you personally, from the communities that Senior Care serves, we do community events, rallies of different sorts, to just simply try to raise awareness and let people know that there is a place, if you're concerned, to report to and get help, or even just offer that information. And every single year in every single community, without fail, someone will approach us and say, well, why do you do this? There's really no concern in this city or town. And that's just not the reality. The reality is there's certainly a concern in every city.
So senior care covers 9 communities. Let's see if I can do this. Beverly, Essex, Gloucester, Ipswich, Hamilton, Wenham, Topsfield, Rockport, and Manchester.
Yes.
And so 9 communities on the North Shore. Roughly how many reports would you say that you folks receive on a monthly basis? Roughly.
So we receive, 75 would probably be a safe number. It could be a little lower, it could be a little higher, and that's on a monthly basis. There have been times, there seems to be patterns and trends, when the windows open and people start to emerge after a long winter and start to venture out in the yard, and neighbors may catch a glimpse and seeing someone not looking as well as they had. Or maybe, they visibly have lost weight, or they look very frail. We tend to see reports tick up a little bit in the warmer months coming into the spring, because people are more visible. Also around the holidays, people come in from out of town and visit people. That might be their annual visit, and notice, ooh, mom and dad don't look as well as they had last visit. Lots of times people can tell us whatever they want over the phone, when you call to check in, but when there's a visual assessment done by a loved one, oftentimes that will correlate with an uptick in report, holidays or summer.
So if somebody wants to involve themselves in the awareness rallies happening, we have 7 communities that are doing them?
I think there are 7 events scheduled.
Okay, and Gloucester, Rockport, Manchester, Essex, Hamilton, Topsfield, and Beverly.
Yes.
Hopefully the screen that you're looking at right now will have those dates. If you're looking at this and it's not 2023, those dates are not going to be right, because we're talking about dates in June 2023. And if the dates are already gone, you can look at Senior Care's website or our Facebook page to get that information. What happens at these rallies? Are they...
So it's a really serious topic that we're certainly trying to raise awareness, but we make them quite fun and engaging. It's a really nice opportunity with professionals and community members to come together and learn what's out there and what's going on. And we partner with the local councils on aging, police departments, fire departments, because we really rely on each other in this line of work and in these cases. And we just simply hold signs and hoot and holler and have some literature and really try to make it an event to show that there's also support out there for people. And it's a way to educate yourself. Ask questions, talk to people, see what they do, see what agency they represent. If someone has, it never fails, someone has a concern or a scenario they want to run by you, we certainly make ourselves available to talk to individuals about what's going on and help offer guidance for their particular situation. But really just even coming by for 5 or 10 minutes and learning a little bit can go a long way.
So I live in Gloucester, and next Tuesday is Gloucester's rally.
It is.
I can't go to that one. Is it okay if I go to the Rockport rally?
Absolutely. It's, the information and the cause is all the same. It's simply to make people aware that elders are at risk and there's a way to help them. So Gloucester is on the 6th. We have 2 other events that same week, but the calendar is certainly going to be on the website. And all of the events really are similar in nature. About the players are the same and the message is the same. So if you can't make Gloucester, you can't make Rockport, there are certainly others that people.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Wanted to repeat that if you are concerned about an elder in your life, you can call the Massachusetts Elder Abuse Hotline at 1-800-922-2275. You can also find information about elder abuse and programs fighting elder abuse at mass.gov or at Senior Care's website, seniorcareinc.org. Thank you so much for joining me today, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Living Wisely, Aging Well. To learn how senior care may be able to serve you or a member of your family, please give us a call at 978-281-1750 and ask to speak with Information and Referral Services. They have so much information they can't wait to give you. You can also find us on the web at www.seniorcareinc.org or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much.